Hello everyone and welcome. Make a cup of your favorite drink and get comfortable because this is a wonderful time for new stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and let's get started. How quickly did you quit your last job and why? Part 4. I worked for a month at an auto body shop but didn't learn anything. There was just me, the owner, and his brother. His brother quit about 2 weeks before I did. The owner was a jerk about everything. "Why are you so slow? Use your brain," and other such things were said to me while they didn't really teach me anything and just told me, "Go do this, go do that," reminding you that I have no experience in auto body. One day, he had me take the trunk off of a sedan so that it could be replaced. I took the bolts off one hinge and the trunk's weight fell on that side. I knew I would probably need help. That I would have asked for before, but I didn't have many choices because the owner was busy in the office with just me. But I chose to put the bolts back in, holding the trunk corner with one hand, but I didn't want to screw them all the way in because I was going to take them off again. So I slid the bolts in a little. So when I let go of the trunk to get my boss from work, the corner of the trunk fell off the bolt and broke the back window. The problem was that I didn't seat them well enough. I messed up and I was going to own up to it. I then tell him what happened and let him know that I was going to ask for his help. He loses it and says, "This is going to be taken out of your effing paycheck." 1, the window replacement will cost a lot, and 2, I think it's against the law to take that money out of my paycheck. That's when I ask him, "Is that legal?" "Is that legal?" he repeats back to me, shocked that I would even think to ask it. I don't know, let me go check," he says, and he goes back into the office to look it up while I work on taking the back bumper off that car. I keep telling myself that I'm just gonna put in my 2 weeks. Because of the care he gave me, the month there was already bad for my mental health. He then tells me, "So, no, I can't take it out of your paycheck unless it was gross negligence or out of malice. But just so you know, that's a $500+ repair that has to come out of my pocket," which made me feel even worse. He asks me why I'm putting in my 2 weeks when I tell him. Right here is where it really kills the case. I tell him that because of how he acted, and he gets mad again. "Well, of course I was gonna act that way. I told you before to come get help when you need it." And I told you again that's exactly what I was doing. I just didn't seat the bolts enough. Then I told him all the other reasons I wanted to quit over the next month. He basically just laughs at me and tells me that he didn't treat me badly and that I just needed to use common sense. Again, I have never worked in auto body before. Whatever. The conversation's over and there'll be 2 weeks' notice. I'm eating my lunch outside of my truck during my lunch break. After about 15 minutes, he comes out, opens my door, and gives me a check. "Here's your final check. You're fired. Get the F off my property." God, just typing this whole thing puts me back in the situation and makes me so effing livid. 2 months at my first job, but I didn't start working there for about an hour. Background: I'm a hairstylist, and in the state I work in, you must have both a salon license and a personal license. In addition, there are 4 distinct licenses for those who fit into the 2 categories of barber, cosmetologist, nail tech, esthetician, as well as 2 primary forms of licensure for salons. It goes without saying that you cannot work in that establishment if the salon's license umbrella does not include the license that you personally possess. But in this specific story, I play a very foolish 21-year-old. Here I am, 21, just out of my second college semester, proud owner of one of the 2 licenses, for which I have the necessary education and completely clueless about the outside world. For a salon, I applied. The owner's impressed that I completed both my cosmetology and barber education, and she wants me to work there. However, I've only completed my education and do not currently hold a cosmetology license. Despite the fact that the location appears elegant and she has me come in for an interview, I don't think this woman would take a chance. She obviously put a lot of effort into this gorgeous salon. That's why when she tells me that the board has introduced a new program called temporary licenses for salons, I don't question the blatantly obvious lie, which enables salons to experiment with obtaining a license that they do not currently hold. For example, her cosmology business has a barber license and she wants me to start working there right away. I work there, and although it appears elegant, we're charging fancy prices, no doubt, but as someone who has done hair for a living, I'm just out of school, and anyone who's worked in the industry knows that no matter how much training you have, you don't know jack S for the first couple of years, and to be honest, I wasn't very good at that time. So it's understandable that the owner's frustrated when 2 out of the 8 people I've worked with in the 2 effing months that I've been there complain. I now suspect that she wanted me to come in as quickly as possible because she thought I could draw in more male clients and help save her probably dying salon. However, rather than having me attend some continuing education classes taught by someone who genuinely knows what they're doing, remove quote busy stylist. I'm a busy stylist now. This girl wasn't good or busy, but she just finished her last semester of school, who has talked down to me, been rude to me, and been generally unpleasant to work with in the 2 months that I've been there. I admit now that I had a hand in this. I had no idea what the H I was doing. I went back to my cosmetology school instructor and said, hey, this is all that's going on. This is what's happening, going into great detail. Some of what's are probably forgotten because it's been a lot of years. Who you expecting that my instructor is going to tell me to buck the F up and grow up? To put it another way, she was an incredibly classy woman who would very rarely to never swear. I was honestly thinking that I was being a little bit childish, but it wasn't sitting well with me. My instructor gives me a direct look and tells me to leave because a temporary license does not exist. Went on to list all the other issues, many of which I'd either overlooked or forgotten to mention in this. And that in addition to paying a fine, I would have my current license revoked and be denied the opportunity to obtain a cosmetology license if it turned out that I was inside without a license. And then informed me that she was calling the state board on them, so I had 24 hours to get my stuff out of there. Yes, I resigned and had all of my belongings out in less than an hour. Well, it was technically 2 months, but it was really only an hour after I discovered the owner was a lying piece of a-hole who was jeopardizing my career with her nonsense. What was the most insane event that happened to you as a homeowner in an HOA? Part 4. Most recent, ongoing battle over video doorbell placement all around the place. I kept getting notices telling me where it should be, but eventually I got one telling me where it was moved each time. The space directly beneath the spy hole. I therefore took this action, rendering it ineffective for monitoring deliveries. I sent a picture of the guidelines to the office and inquired about their review. I was essentially told tough cookies, it's an eyesore elsewhere. Right now, all I can see is the top of the stairs and my neighbor's door. I can't black out my view because doing so would completely obscure who comes to my door. I noticed several other apartments in the interim have cameras mounted on the top of their door frames. I was made clear that this was not permitted because it was their property. I've already reported more than one theft to the police in the office, and they advised me to get the D-thing. My curtains facing the road need to be white, and I do have blinds or shades, but I only had the center window partially drawn to let in some light while I was cleaning. I suppose they were doing their let's collect some money rounds that afternoon. Neighbor across the hall pushing other non-odorous trash and empty boxes to my side. I informed the office that this wasn't me after being threatened with a fine and administrative fees if my violations continued for this. My mom was being fined by the HOA because a tree in the front yard died. In a cookie-cut subdivision, we were the first family to move into the new section. Therefore, the builder's handling of the drainage around the house was appalling. When it sprinkled, the tree sat in about an inch of water. When it rained, it took days for the tree to dry up. It was therefore useless to plant another tree in its place. Furthermore, mosquitoes. Yes, it wasn't enjoyable. My mother reportedly went back and forth with the builder and homeowners association until everything was resolved. Following court visits that demonstrated it wasn't her fault the tree died, the HOA fines that had been accruing for more than a year were waived. To fix the issue, a French drain was installed and extensive dirt work was done. However, I had a great time growing up in that neighborhood. I now realize as an adult that my mother is a strong lady who doesn't put up with anyone's nonsense. As soon as we moved into our most recent residence, we became aware that the previous owners had installed a satellite dish for DirecTV in the backyard. It was reported by neighbors that the previous owners had put it up as soon as they moved in, despite the fact that they had lived there for 3 years. We received a letter from the HOA within 2 months demanding that we immediately remove the satellite dish because it was not permitted to be installed and we had not asked for permission to install it in the first place when we did so. For the purpose of demonstrating that we had successfully completed the task, they demanded that it be completed within 48 hours and that a photograph be sent along with the newspaper date. We attempted to respond by saying that we are happy to remove it because we do not intend to use it. However, that was not the case because we were not the ones who initially put it up. They insisted that we were, and they threatened to fine us if we did not complete it within the allotted amount of time. That was such a stupid and petty thing to do, and it was not a good way to start living there. There are a lot of Karens walking around, all of them angry about nothing. Okay, this one's a doozy. Purchased a home in Gilbert, Arizona, which was located in a homeowners association where half of the land was still under construction. In order to acquire all of the remaining lots, the home builder sold all of them to an investor. The fact that these were going to be rented out was not only in violation of the original CCCR, but he also struck a deal with the builder to pay a significant reduction in the HOA fees. Although he did not pay the majority of the dues, he owned more than half of the houses in the community, and his homes received 2 votes each, while the votes of everyone else were only 1. During the time that the shady tenants were destroying the neighborhood and our homeowners association was underfunded, he maintained complete control over everything. Additionally, he was in charge of the board, which was comprised of an investor who resided in another state and did not care about the community. Finally sold his houses at the peak of the market, which skyrocketed, made a fortune, and sold them to another developer where things are better because we forced them to give up all of their rights and seats on the board. After 8 years, we finally have a homeowner-controlled board, but our homeowners association is still underfunded because this D-bag paid little for 8 years. Numerous repairs are required in the neighborhood. Dues just went up $50 a quarter for everyone. This is actually pretty dumb, but our HOA rarely has enough residents that show up to the meetings, which implies that not many things are put to a vote and passed. At last, a sizable turnout occurred to cast votes in favor of adding a second stop sign to the main road, which is lengthy and has some neighbors who drive far too fast. It appears that the HOA president was impatient as the sign was placed in the designated location just 1 week later. Nevertheless, the sign disappeared 4 days later. Since wood was less expensive than steel, it was used as the post. Someone chopped down the post at ground level in the middle of the night. A metal post was erected in place of the sign after 3 weeks. Once more, it was chopped down. Not only has the sign not been changed in the past 7 years, but no one knows for sure who took it down. To remove a stop sign that was erected in a very sensible location in a neighborhood with lots of children and no sidewalk just seems so dumb. Back in February, the Insane Illiterate Board was appointed to take over the HOA. Not one of them had been here for a year or more. They emotionally and physically demolished our 42-year-old condo complex. They arranged a movie night for the 144 owners and renters in an attempt to mobilize support against the more outspoken residents. They purchased refreshments, recreational equipment, speakers, and a projector. There were 6 in attendance. There were 4 board members, 1 former board member, and the friend of the former board member. They sprung into action and called a community meeting for the following week when they learned that owners and residents were planning a meeting to discuss issues to bring before the board. But we were prepared this time. Equipped with the proof and the resounding backup of the community, we revealed their incapacity and disregard during the community meeting. Locals expressed their complaints. Despite the board's best efforts, the evidence was too damning to support them. They had not only disregarded maintenance concerns, but they'd also misappropriated money, disregarded their obligations, and avoided being open and honest with the residents. It was very evident how inexperienced they were and how little they understood the needs of our community. We came together and put up a united front. The vast majority of the community signed and circulated a petition calling for a vote of no confidence. We insisted on their prompt resignation and the installation of a stand-in board until legitimate elections could take place. The board was forced to resign in the face of overwhelming evidence of their shortcomings and the community's unifying voice. With the express purpose of revitalizing our condominium complex, the interim board, which was made up of seasoned and committed residents, assumed office. The former board members are currently being looked into for possible financial misappropriation and poor management. As a result of the legal repercussions they're facing, our community is at last beginning to heal. Rebuilding trust among residents and addressing the emotional and physical harm caused are top priorities for the new interim board. If you want to watch part 3, click the link here. We're very glad to see you all in the comments again, and many thanks for support.